Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Jedi Eternal, a Star Wars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Braxton Taylor, alongside Andrew the Irresponsible Bolin. How dare you? It's his turn to open the podcast.
That is incredibly rude.
No, it is. It is on purpose. Now, it's his turn to open the podcast. And he's like, can you do it because my stuff's dead over here, and by the time it's taking me to get over here, and I'm like, listen, people want to hear you too, okay? It's not just me. It's not just my show, okay? You're taking away from the people. You're hurting Alex Mason's heart. He really wants to hear you.
I don't even know what to say to that other than, hello, everyone. I'm just going to ignore it. Yes, my keyboard was dead, but listen, that's what happens when we don't record for like what feels like a billion years.
That maybe happened. We may accidentally skip 2 weeks in a row. Well, it wasn't really by accident. There was a lot of stuff going on, but I digress. Anyway, but we are here now.
We're back.
We're back. The boys are back in town.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to expedite this little intro part here because we already know you know it, but we have to say it because we have to say it. But, of course, we have a Patreon, and that Patreon, there's many things you can get. First and foremost, you do get all of our releases, whether that be our podcast episodes or Let's Play episodes, whatever it may be. As soon as they are posted, you get them, instead of having to wait until Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Secondarily, you do get exclusive access to the one and only and other stuff, which is a second podcast that we have that is Patreon exclusive.
Wow.
So if you guys want to hear more of our wacky, wild, and zany adventures.
Yeah, and for the episode that will be coming out, around the same time as this Jedi Eternal episode comes out. There's a wacky story in there for you from me.
Yeah, I don't even know it yet. He's supposed to tell me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be fun, and I think that'll be our 10th episode. So that is at the very least 10 hours worth of content that you'll have access to if you become a subscriber to our Patreon. And there's only one tier, only $5.
Yeah.
And last but not least, once you become a subscriber to our Patreon, you become one of our producers, which gets to help us dictate what our, how we run our show. If we make any decisions, we run it by you first. For instance, one of our patrons, or producers, dictated what we're going to be talking about today on that podcast.
Yes.
So if you want to have that kind of power, you know what? All you have to do is subscribe, and you help us a little bit, and in return, you get all this awesome, cool stuff. But last but not least, we, of course, do always want to thank our patrons and our producers, and we have a list of those, and I'm just going to read them off now.
Yes, we want to thank JB, Josh and Birkinshaw, Tara Bolin, Grace and David Gill, Alex Mason, Jay Camdar, Jenna Evans, and Promise Quick.
Yeah. Well, we thank each and every one of you so much. Seriously, though, it does mean a lot to us. You know,
it does.
You may not get a ton out of it, and there may not be a whole slew of things that it helps us with, but it's just that little bit that we like to put out there and just so, hey, if you want to go the extra mile for us, we're going to go extra mile for you. We really appreciate you guys, truly. You guys are the heartbeat of this podcast, and we love you so much. So anyway, so let's go ahead and get into the actual podcast. So we have some news, we have some rumors for you, and we have a big main topic that we haven't even fully discussed exactly how we're going to even talk about it. So we have so many things to talk about today.
Yeah, there was a lot that went on in Star Wars
yes.
while we were gone for 2 weeks?
2 weeks, basically, yeah.
So, of course, let's just kind of bring up what that means.
Yeah,
so there's at least 3 episodes of Andor that has happened.
Yeah.
Since we last talked about Andor.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm
not wrong
2,
on that, right?
Or I thought it was 2 because we're 2 weeks, so it's
what was the last episode we reviewed?
We did 2 last time to catch up on the last.
And we
episode.
did 2 before that, so that'd be 4.
Yeah.
And there's been more than, or no, it's 3 the first time, 4, 5, and I think there's now 8 episodes.
Oh, so there's 3. Yeah, I don't know, guys. There's so much to go over. So, and then on top of that, of course, magically, we have another whole episode series thing that came out today, or excuse me, yesterday, which was this Wednesday.
Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi, which is pretty awesome, and we're gonna get into our thoughts on that. But there's so much to talk about, so let's just go ahead and dive into it.
Let's do it.
So, First news piece for this week is that recently the New York Comic Con occurred, and there's many Comic Cons that occur across the country, and some of the biggest ones, of course, are New York and L.A. Imagine that they're the two biggest cities in the U.S. But New York does tend to have a lot of big releases for the different genres of medium that come out. There's going to be a release. It's probably going to be at the New York Comic Con. And this year, they had some releases for a few different things, different release details for books and different things like that, some of the High Republic news. And Drew has a list of that for us. So what are some of these releases that we heard about, Drew?
Yeah, so the biggest things that we got here was about the High Republic. We're now in Phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
First book has been released. The comic, I believe, just started or is about to start. And so now we have cover reveals for the second phase of this. Second wave.
Yeah.
Second wave of Phase 2.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
And we have the adult novel. You can look on our social media and see these pictures. I believe it should be on our Instagram and Facebook. These covers. So we have the adult one by Lydia Kang is up there. We have the one by Tessa Gratton, Quest for Planet X, which is the junior novel. We have Path of Vengeance, which is written by Captain Scott. Captain Scott being the author of my favorite of all of the High Republic books so far. So we'll see how he does with this one. That's going to be the second young adult novel. And that comes in May 2023. We got our first look at that one there. Very interesting stuff going on there. If you are a fan of the High Republic and you look at this cover, this one has the most notable thing. You'll see that there is a Nile symbol on the ground there. But also, there is the Nameless appears to be lurking around around the edges. So
spooky.
So that is some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, so. Yeah.
We also got some different comic book stuff there. Again, you find this stuff pretty easily if you search it. But they did announce there's going to be a sequel of sorts to the what was it called? The Edge of Balance, which was the anime, or manga, I guess is what, right? Or manga? How do you say it? Manga?
Well,
manga?
What is it? Was the anime, like the show? Is it?
It wasn't a show. No, it was the comic. But
okay, then manga, whatever.
Is it manga? But I'm saying, do you say manga or manga?
Well, it's Japanese versus American pronunciation,
okay.
Right? So
okay,
it doesn't matter.
Well, okay, whatever. But there's going to be a sequel to that called Precedent, and so that will be out in May 2023 as well. And one of the actually really big surprising things that I don't think anyone was really expecting is that they did announce another young adult book in the High Republic series, but this one's a little different because it is an anthology series.
Yeah.
So this is coming to every era of the initiative, so every phase of the initiative of the High Republic. So there's stories in this anthology that will be Phase 1, Phase 2, and leading into Phase 3. So that is very interesting, and that's going to be, I assume that's the last piece of content we're getting before Phase 3 starts, would be my assumption on this, and it does arrive in July 2023. So that could be really, really cool. And I did see a list come out about like which the authors said which phase they were going to be writing these in. I don't have that on me, but that is somewhere. I saw it somewhere. I read it. But cool stuff there for sure. So then, jumping forward the next day at NYC Comic Con, they had another publishing panel. So this one was not just about the High Republic, but just Star Wars in general. And that's where we got the announcement of Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade. And this is a novel written by Delilah Dawson, and she wrote the Phasma novel, as well as somewhat of a sequel to that. And I don't remember what that one was called, but it had Cardinal, which is a fan favorite character. So I would definitely keep an eye on this one. It's going to be about a Jedi survivor of Order 66 that turns to the dark side, joining the Inquisitors.
That's cool.
And it's going to come in 2023, and I would say there's a good chance that'll be a good one. So
yeah,
keep an eye out for that one.
Sounds pretty cool.
Also got Sana Staros is going to be getting her own Marvel miniseries. If you're a fan of Dr. Aphra, you'll know who that is. If you don't know who that is, go read the Star Wars comics and you'll find out pretty quickly. Then we also got Star Wars Revelations, which is coming up. And again, Star Wars Revelations is going to be a one-shot that's going to be essentially telling us what the future of Star Wars is going to be for us in this next year. And so that's going to be kind of a cool lead into that. And so they showed us some covers. Pretty cool there. Also, now this is really cool, and I think I've showed you this book before that I have, but it's the Lightsaber Collection.
Yeah.
Really, really cool book. Did I give it to you, actually?
You did. I was going to say, you actually gave it to me.
I think I gave it to you because I didn't have room for it anymore, so I'm like buried in books here, and I'm running out of room.
What a nerd.
I really love that book, though. Like, it's really cool. I like looking at it.
Us cool kids who can't read don't have one.
So what they're doing is they're actually releasing the High Republic lightsaber collection. So it's going to be like the same deal, but it's all of the High Republic blades.
That's cool.
And
That's
so
cool.
I might have to buy it anyway, even though I don't have room for it. And then I can just give it to you, I guess, after I look through
Eventually, you need to send it down to the little peasant here.
But very excited for that. Then they showed us also... they showed us Star Wars Timelines, which is, I think I've talked about this on the show before, but it's going to be a gigantic chronological order book of all of the Star Wars media we have gotten so far, which I'm absolutely excited about. I have my own version of that, but this is going to go into detail on everything, and so I will own this book. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but I'll own it. And
put on your mantle.
maybe this will be the book that's like on my like family table, you know,
Right.
You know, like people put like
like photo albums.
They put like photo albums, or they
know.
put sometimes, you know, they got those like fancy like art books, or maybe even it's like the big family Bible. Mine's gonna be the Star Wars chronological Star Wars canon timeline.
Hey, honestly, I'm not gonna blame you.
But no, that's gonna be really cool. I'm excited about that one. But that's all the announcements we got out of the NYC Comic Con as far as publishing goes.
Yeah.
Really, I think that was all we really got there with Star Wars, was through the publishing panels.
Yeah.
But really exciting stuff. Really, the High Republic continues to push on. Comics still going strong. So
yeah,
I mean, we'll see where it goes from here. But exciting stuff in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so so a new Star Wars movie is apparently in the works with another MCU director. Again, we've had a lot of different announcements and a lot of different things being said here and there about the movies and what we're going to get as our next movie and all that good stuff. But there actually has been an announcement recently that another MCU director is going to be taking the helm on a Star Wars movie. So what do we have on that, Drew?
So here's the deal with this. Some of you might wonder why we're putting this in news, because it is maybe a little sketchy on if it's been officially announced by Lucasfilm. However, this is from the Hollywood Reporter. They've got all the details. It's clear that this is real stuff here.
Yeah.
So, as we've talked about before, we knew there was a secret Star Wars movie, as far as what we've talked about in rumors, being worked on by Damon Lindelof. Right? We've talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
So this has officially kind of been thrust into the open here, and has started getting a lot of attention just over the past week. And so for those of you who don't know, Lindelof created, or he was part of Lost, Watchmen, The Leftovers, all really high prestigious stuff. So sources are telling the Hollywood Reporter that Lindelof is writing the new Star Wars script with Justin Britt Gibson, who is Yes, Justin Bieber.
Yeah, okay. I just
He's
want to,
writing the Star script with Justin Bieber. It's called Baby.
It's called Baby 2.0.
Baby.
Baby Grogu.
Baby
Yoda.
Grogu.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
But he's Britt Gibson is a young and rising writer who worked as an executive story editor on Guillermo del Toro's vampire drama The Strain, which I believe is also a pretty popular drama, if I'm told correctly. But however, he came to the job after what was reported a secret writer's room that began directly after this past year's Star Wars Celebration.
Whoa. It's crazy.
So at Celebration, or after Celebration, the room held a 2-week session. At the table were Patrick Somerville, who worked with Lindelof on Leftovers, and then went on to create Station 11, which is also another popular series. Raina McClendon, a consulting producer on Lucasfilm's own Obi-Wan Kenobi, and writer on the company's upcoming Willow series, and Andy Greenwald, the creator of the 2019 Rosario Dawson crime drama Briar Patch, among a couple of other writers. Also, they're saying that Dave Filoni was also present. So, sources say the movie project is intended as a standalone, but in success could lead to more movies.
Yeah, it's usually how it goes, right? Like, we're going to do this one-off, but if it gets us money, we might make more.
Right.
That's usually how it works, right?
And then here's the next big hitter here. And sources say that the story would take place after the events of Rise of Skywalker.
So it would be our first look, other than this great Lego content we've been getting, right?
Yeah. Although it would not be a continuation of the Skywalker saga, it could, however, feature some of the characters from the Star Wars trilogy.
Interesting. Well, that'd be an interesting turn of events for sure. Now, again, did they say when that was projected to potentially come out or whatever?
Not a peep.
Not a peep.
And I would say it'd be a while, because if we're talking a writer's room happened right after Celebration.
True. Yeah.
This is a very, very early in talks and production. So
yeah,
I would say this may be farther off than the Taika Waititi film, or
I mean, and you never even know what's actually going to come out or be released and stuff,
right. And it's hard to know. It's hard to know, like, where they're at with these things. And actually, we're going to talk more about that in our rumors about the way that Lucasfilm doesn't really give us any answers, and we're going to talk about that. But
yeah.
Well, but what's your thoughts? Do you want this to be? Do you want this to be a thing? I mean, do you want this to be a thing that comes from after the sequel trilogy? Do you want that?
I mean, here's the thing. I love Star Wars just in general, right? And I do love anything that's a good, it's a good story. It's a good storytelling. So I will admit my initial gut reaction is that no, it's not something that particularly appeals to me. Is like, post-sequel era storytelling. But here's the thing, like I said, if it's something that really gets the good feel of Star Wars, they have good characters and good character development and a great storyline that they stick to and don't jump all over the place, you know what? I'll give it a chance and might very well like it. It's just that my predilections, right? Like my instant reaction is that I'm like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's just my gut feeling, I guess.
The fact that Damon Lindelof is attached to this definitely heightens my my outlook on it, because I really like Damon Lindelof and I love everything he's worked on. Anything he's worked on, I've been a fan of. I loved Lost, but I will say the director, which is Charmaine. I don't know how to say her last name, but she did some of the episodes of Miss Marvel. Not a big fan of that show at all.
I was not very good.
And so Her being the director over this, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And again, in all fairness, sometimes sometimes a director can come out of nowhere and like blow your socks off and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Like that was so much different than their previous stuff. But at the end of the day, though, there's a reason why directors say like, oh, that's that director's style, because most of the time it's just a reoccurring thing of what they make is kind of around the same thing. So if you didn't like Miss Marvel, it does kind of give you that automatic feeling of like, oh boy, it's in an era that I'm like already kind of what, I could take it or leave it, and then give that director on it and you're like, okay, it's scaring me a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll just have to see. We've talked about it before, how we didn't know if they would go into after the sequel trilogy anytime soon.
Yeah.
Looks like maybe they're talking about, like, hey, let's go ahead and do it. I do think that could potentially be kind of dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think when they say there'll be other characters from the trilogy, I mean, let's be honest, it's probably going to be Rey. I mean, I think there's a good chance if we ever get stuff after the sequel trilogy, they're going to bring back Daisy Ridley as Rey.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they could do one without her, but I think she's like, out of everyone left at this point, she's the one that will really get people excited.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, because it can't be Kylo Ren, can't be anyone from the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Except for Chewbacca, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe Lando.
Adventures of Chewie or something. I don't know.
But Adventures of Chewie. There we go. Yeah. Let's just do that.
Well, here's the thing. Like, this is what I'll say is that, and this is where they have to be careful, is that the way it's sounding, being a one-off and stuff like that, it sounds like non-committal almost, where it's like, oh, we're going to just kind of piddle around the timeline directly after Rise of Skywalker and just play on some stories there. But like it's, you're not really committing to it. And I feel like if they are going to jump into post-sequel trilogy, we're going into the great beyond of the future of Star Wars that, it's uncharted. Like, they need to, like, make it a big ordeal. Like, this is the first movie that's come, and this is how we're going to project it into the future. Now, whether I love how they do it or not, that's one answer, but I think that's how they have to do it, in my opinion, because again, you're in uncharted territory once you start going into the future, right, of Star Wars. So with this movie, it is a little scary because it sounds like they're not really committing to anything. It's just like, oh, it's a one-off movie, blah blah blah. But so I don't know. We'll see.
We will see.
We will certainly see.
We're gonna see if this comes to life and what it's like. But moving on, new data reveals Andor's audience struggles. So let's get into this. According to Parrot Analytics, data suggests that despite Andor's success with critics, audience demand for the series has been significantly lower than any other Star Wars Disney Plus series at relative points in their releases.
Yeah.
Including the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, wow. That's actually kind of surprising. Well, kind of, sort of surprising.
So, the exact quote here is, the most disappointing trend I've come across recently is how audience demand for Andor is overwhelmingly lower than The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, The Book of Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, despite the fact that it is easily the best Star Wars series by far.
Okay, well, hold on here. Who's the clown that said that? Like, that's reaching
and
a
they
little
said
bit.
that demand is overwhelmingly lower than Lucasfilm's other Star Wars series.
Yeah. Okay, so this is why I said it's kind of not surprising for me earlier. Because, like, okay, as kind of crummy as Book of Boba Fett was, and I'm sorry for those who enjoyed it, it kind of was crummy. You had the people coming in that were diehard OG trilogy fans and liked Boba Fett, and they wanted to, that have never been a part of Disney Plus yet, Or, on the other hand, we got Kenobi, who's a fixture in the Star Wars saga, right? And so he has that going for him. And Mandalorian was fresh and new, and it's just out of this stale moment of Rise of Skywalker and the movies and stuff. So some people were searching for something new. So it's like, if we already got all this good media, Andor is not really a character that people are like just innately drawn to, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not that surprising that it's lower, but this person is suggesting that that it's significantly lower.
To put it more into a perspective of numbers, Andor's demand is over 10 times lower than all of the other ones.
Yeah, that is quite a bit lower.
So, yeah, here's the thing: when you look at it, Andor, for someone that is not a diehard Star Wars fan,
right,
they're gonna see something called Andor, and they're gonna be like,
"What is that?" Yeah,
like that means absolutely nothing.
It means
to
nothing to me. Yeah.
Again, with these other series, for example, the Book of Boba Fett, which very controversial, right? on how you feel about that show.
Yeah.
But no matter what, anyone that sees the Book of Boba Fett's gonna go,
it's Boba Fett.
Oh, it's Boba Fett.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody's. I don't care if you like Star Wars or don't like Star Wars. You've heard of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Same goes for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah,
most likely, maybe a little less chance, but still pretty high up there.
Right.
That you've heard of the name Obi-Wan Kenobi and probably know it's part of Star Wars.
Right.
Now, if you see the Mandalorian is its own thing.
It's its own beast.
It's its own beast.
It's so bombastic and crazy that it's created its own.
It's created
infamy.
its own infamy at this point.
Yeah,
and the Grogu alone.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows what Grogu is.
Yeah.
Baby
yogurt.
Yeah, I mean, you must live in a cave if you couldn't tell me.
I mean, there's so many.
You may not be able to say its name.
You know what I'm saying? There's so many baby yogurt memes that people don't even know what Star Wars is, and they share like baby yogurt memes. You know what I'm saying?
So all of these shows have their reasonings for being as popular as they are, and also just being Star Wars, right? But Andor is a whole nother battle.
Oh,
yes, it's linked to a very highly acclaimed movie with Rogue One, but a lot of people are going to go into it not even understanding that, right? They're not even going to know.
Yeah.
They're not going to remember that Cassian Andor. They're not going to remember that, right? So that's the biggest battle here for this show.
And on top of that, not only is it kind of like a relatively little known character that most people don't have a lot of investment in, it's also a very big break from Star Wars standards. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing that plays on it too, is someone who's like, oh, this doesn't feel like Star Wars, so I'm not going to watch it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really have an investment in this. I don't really have a stake in this that draws me back into it. I'm not saying that for everybody. I'm just saying for the average watcher, I would say.
Right. It's definitely for a very particular audience here. You know, it's slow paced. Political drama, right? Like,
definitely.
In Star Wars, and most people don't really go into Star Wars for slow conversation.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's very very much a slow burn, and
terrorism,
and
all that,
and we're used to the wars and we'll get into our thoughts more on Andor as we go, but that's not even really what this is about. It's just about seeing the numbers here. But my question to you would be: does these low numbers affect the potential of the series continuing, or do you think no matter what, this series will continue on for its second season?
It's hard to say exactly. But at the end of the day, I say it all the time, it's kind of a joke, but I'm dead serious at the same time, is that Disney doesn't care about lore. Disney does not care about Star Wars and the core of its message. They care about numbers. That's really all they care about at this point. And they completed the acquisition of Star Wars in 2012 or whatever it was because it was profitable. And so I think there is a chance that season 2 could be, unless depending on the production level that's already completed or whatever, but if it's not a big financial hardship for them to quit it, I could see them kind of canning the next season just because of the numbers are being so low. Because for instance, it was like a taboo subject to bring up Han Solo 2. You know what I'm saying? Because of the bad acclaim. And I personally don't think Han Solo, the Solo movie, even got as bad as acclaim as Andor is right now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, actually, Andor critically is doing very, very well.
Critically, yeah, true.
Andor is being praised by critics.
Yeah, true.
Saying lots of places saying it's the best Star Wars we've gotten in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen it both ways with audience. I've seen it both ways. I've seen people saying they agree it's the best Star Wars. I see people saying what even is this? I'm bored. I don't know what I'm even watching. And so, but critics are praising it. So does the critic praise? Is that enough?
Right.
To keep it going, even if there's low audience numbers?
It's hard to say. Yeah.
It's hard to say. Yeah. I do think season 2 is already in some level of production.
Right.
So I think that does make it harder for them to stop at this point. I think they're gonna follow through because this, from the get-go, they've said this is a 2-season show.
Right.
So for them to release one season and then not release a second season would look pretty bad.
Yeah.
Especially when they've already said, like, this is we're doing 2 seasons of this show.
Yeah. I mean, so if they've already kind of had the verbal commitment, plus with production already being started to some degree, yeah. I mean, I would say that it's put them in some sort of, if not monetary hardship, it would put them in some sort of marketable hardship where it would look bad on them. Mm-hmm. And they're going to go ahead and probably take, because I think that's the thing with Disney, like they would rather take a monetary hit than a image hit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway.
And I think that in the real question here with the numbers, with the critic ratings, is if I think what we really probably should be talking about is whether they want to extend Andor into more seasons or not. Because if there's enough views, if there's enough praise, they may want to extend that second season into maybe another, having 3 seasons or 4 seasons. I think that's really the question here on if those numbers keep them to that, just the 2 seasons, or if there's enough going here for them to want to do more. Yeah. I don't think there is. I think with the low audience views, but with high critic praise, I think we're going to stay at that 2-season mark.
Yeah.
And end it there.
They'll keep their commitment, because if it just trash and just bomb by everyone, then they might not, but because it would be more of a image hit to continue doing it than and break their commitment than vice versa. Anyway,
right.
But yeah, because of the high critic praise, then anyway. So we gotten kind of deep in this, but let's not get too deep in the weeds because we are going to be reviewing more of the Andor as our part of our main subject. For sure. But yeah, it's a good discourse, because as this continues on, it'll be interesting to see how they react to it. And I do agree with you. I do think that they're going to probably commit to completing the second season, and probably, depending on how it goes from here, probably just stay there. So anyway, but that is the end of our news for this week, and we're going to go ahead into our rumors. And the first rumor is that an unsurprising actor was reportedly cast as a live-action Thrawn. So, of course, we've heard, there's 1,000,000,001 different actors that, like, oh, it should be this person, it should be that person. So this rumor says an unsurprising actor is reportedly cast as Thrawn. So, Drew, who's this unsurprising actor?
This unsurprising actor would be
Justin Bieber.
It's Frank Oz.
Frank Oz. Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito. That'd be something.
I could keep going all day, but I'll just
say we could play on that for a while.
Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, seriously, I'm done.
Okay. It's Lars Mikkelsen, right? Lars Mikkelsen, who voices him in Rebels. And honestly, I think it's silly that we're having to have this conversation.
Like, seriously, why is it not just him?
Why isn't it not just like he looks like him?
Yeah.
It already sounds like him. That's what we know him to sound like.
Yeah.
So just cast him already. Like, why the secrecy? Why the rumors? Just say it. It's like, yes, we know Thrawn's coming. He's been talked about. He's in the Mandalorian season 2, right? Like, we know Ahsoka is looking for him, and we know we're getting Ahsoka series.
And we saw a little hologram of him and everything.
It's not a surprise that Thrawn is coming.
Right.
I feel like that's what they're wanting to do, is be like, they want to have this big surprise. It's not going to be a surprise. We know.
Right.
We don't necessarily know where we're going to see him first. Some people think we might even see him in Andor. I don't really know that I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be cool.
It would be a good way to really tie in the show.
It would be cool, but I don't necessarily know that I believe it. But wherever he pops up first, we're definitely seeing him. So just tell us already
Just say
that
it.
yes,
Just
Lars
say it.
Mikkelsen is going to be Thrawn. And honestly, at this point, if Lars Mikkelsen isn't Thrawn, I think I'm going to be upset.
Right.
I think I
I
am.
think I'm gonna riot in the streets.
Yeah, I think I'm at this point I'm going to be kind of mad if they don't just cast him as Thrawn.
Yeah, I understand. I agree. You know, again, and this was the whole, but you know they're not totally against doing it. You know, not casting him because with Ahsoka, right? You know, that was the biggest thing.
Now, Ahsoka is somewhat different.
It is a different circumstance, sure. Yeah.
You know, with movie magic, I think they could have worked with Ashley Eckstein and made it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she's not a spitting image of what we know Ahsoka to look like, right?
Right.
Where Lars Mikkelsen literally is like they took Lars Mikkelsen,
He just literally didn't, like
his likeness, and made Thrawn, right?
Yeah, I mean, he literally took like a bunch of pictures and just ported those pictures into some CGI program and like, all right, turn them blue, baby. You know?
Yeah, like they started with his likeness when they created it, obviously.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's one of those things where, like you said, it's just surprising that they're just tiptoeing around this thing that we already know is coming. So just rip the Band-Aid off.
And he plays in movies. So it's
right. He's a very established
it's like,
actor.
Again, with
right?
Ashley Eckstein, at least you could say, well, she didn't.
She's just voiced on cartoons.
She wasn't necessarily a movie actor. She's a voice actor, and so blah blah blah. But he's been in lots of movies, so and TV or whatever.
No excuse.
No excuse at all.
All right.
I don't know why I was so heated on that one. But.
I know. Hey, Andrew's over sweating. You know, it's like, had to dab his brow between commercial breaks. You know.
But moving on to our next story here, rumor.
Whoa.
Our next rumor is Disney reportedly prevents Kathleen Kennedy from announcing new Star Wars projects. So this came from industry insider Matthew Baloney, and he reported that. Can you imagine being an industry insider and having your last name be Baloney?
Well. If it isn't phony baloney.
So he's reporting that Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy was advised by Disney to stop announcing projects and creative partners. The reasoning for the blockage comes down to media management, an effort to prevent fans and press from further tackling Lucasfilm following the cancellation of a slew of projects in recent years.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course, the two biggest examples of this is three, I guess, examples of this is Patty Jenkins' movie, right? The Rogue Squadron movie where she literally made an announcement video and then it fell off the side of the planet.
right.
And still seems to be not going anywhere. And then, of course, we also have the Rian Johnson trilogy, who he's been literally talking about it for years. And and every time someone asks him, he's always like, "Oh yeah, I'm still gonna do it. We just whenever I get time."
Yeah,
it's like,
whenever I get time.
It's like, listen, I don't even believe that. Okay, like you seriously think Lucasfilm's sitting there and just waiting for Rian Johnson to press his little buzzer and say, "Okay, I'm ready to make a Star Wars movie now." It's not that simple. No. I don't care if you're a prestigious director or not. There's more to it than that, and
especially when you have all of the controversy around. I was
gonna say, and if out of all of the directors we've had so far in Star Wars, he's absolutely the most controversial one.
Right.
So that might help you in some ways because the critic side, the audience eye. You're in a dangerous realm there. So
right, and if you're dragging your feet and you're already controversial and there's like a lot of backlash by you being related to this such an important trilogy, it's like it's very possible that they're just going to drop you.
Yeah. So and then of course Benioff and Weiss, who were also going to be doing a trilogy, ended up getting the boot, or they claim I don't know what happened there, but most likely they got booted because of how poorly the last season of Game of Thrones did, which pretty much just like destroyed their career.
Yeah. And there was two. Yeah, it's kind of sad, but they did it themselves. They did it themselves, though, people. No, it was like there's two different rumors. Yeah, they got the boot because of how bad season 7 was. Or the other rumor was that they themselves dropped it because of how bad Rise of Skywalker was, and they didn't want to be associated with that. And it's not just that they didn't want to be associated with it, but they were like afraid of all the backlash of the Star Wars fans and stuff like that.
And honestly, it probably kind of both played into it, right?
Yeah.
There was probably a side of it where they're like, man, we're already hurt ourselves with Game of Thrones. Do we really want to jump into another huge IP and potentially destroy our reputation even more if we do bad?
Right.
So, yeah, that's probably kind of part of it. But whatever the deal is here, I do think this does kind of make sense that I could see Disney coming to Kathleen Kennedy and being like, yo, you gotta stop announcing stuff.
Just like cut it out.
You've gotta stop telling people stuff because there was that. Remember, I'll never forget the D23 or presentation. I think it was D23, where she got up there and just started listing off,
rattling off
thing after thing after thing. Most of those we still haven't seen anything about.
Oh yeah,
there's multiple projects within that we've not yet seen anything about at all.
Yeah,
and so it's like, so I get it to an extent, but I've also been very vocal on that. I want to see them get to that kind of MCU style announcements.
Yeah.
So here's, I think, the thing. Lucasfilm, pull it together. Pull it together.
Get a plan. Get some structure.
Get some structure. You've had time, first of all,
for Pete's sake,
to get this in order. I mean, you've had a long time at this point. We're getting on. We're not that far off from 10 years of them really working on this. Technically we are 10 years if you the actual acquisition, but I think it was like 2014 when things really started rolling out.
Yeah.
And it's like you've had all this time to really kind of get this ball rolling and have plans and have and unfortunately, we had a trilogy of movies, and then they didn't go so hot, not the way they wanted it to, at least. And so now it's just like this sea of nothingness, other than whatever Dave Filoni and John Favreau want to do.
Right.
Like, and then an occasional random other thing like Andor.
Right, just randomly crop up, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's happening. Yeah.
It's like I want Kathleen Kennedy to come out and say, here's our plan for the next 3 years, and boom, 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 with dates, or at least years they're going to be released, and this is about this and that, and here's this trilogy, and here's what our focus is.
Exactly.
Instead of us sitting here thinking they don't have a focus. They don't have any clue what they're doing.
And again, you don't even have to give us specifics, but just give us a foundation to stand on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like we're out in the middle of the ocean swimming, and we're like, well, I wonder if a raft's going to finally come by. No, give us a foundation to stand upon. We may not know exactly where the road leads, but at least we know there's a road. You know what I'm saying?
Just knowing there's a road would be nice.
There's some
I feel like
direction.
We're doing a lot of off-roading, like...
It's like I'm going down a mountain on a tricycle, and it's like...
And yes, we've gotten some great things, of course, again, like we said earlier, The Mandalorian, what a hit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone could have predicted how well The Mandalorian has done and has made a name for itself and will continue. I have no doubt will go down in history as a classic. Like The Mandalorian will. It has enough there going for it, but also we've got some stinkers in there,
Got some stinkers.
And I just want to see more. For example, the publishing side of Star Wars is actually a really great way to look at this.
Yeah.
They sat down and they came up with the plan. And they said, we're going to do the High Republic, and here's what we're doing. Here's the phases. We're going to have 3 phases. Here's what all the phases are called, and we're going to have waves within those phases. And they showed all this. They don't give us every single detail, but we understood the roadmap. There's
some sort of structure that they're working off of. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, I just want Star Wars to be that. I want
Right.
the movies and the TV series to have that roadmap.
Yeah, and again, just the fact that we haven't gotten it, it's either their stupidity or their hubris. You know what I'm saying? It's like either there's too stupid to realize that they have to have this to keep people engaged, or they have too much hubris and too much, big head, inflated head, that we're so important, that they're so big that people will just gobble up whatever we put out, good, bad, or indifferent, whenever it happens to come out. One or the other, and neither of them are good. So.
Right.
So let's move on. we got a lot to say this episode, clearly. So our final rumor for this week is that Jedi Fallen Order 2 gets release update amidst delay concerns.
Yeah, so this is kind of just a quick little update, and we'll just say this real quick and move on. But Jeff Grubb, who is a insider for video games, very, very accurate insider. He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
He says that as of right now, despite the delay concerns that we've talked about before with rumors, he says currently Star Wars Jedi Survivor is still set for that March 2023 release date.
Yeah.
He says he's been looking into it. It's still on track. He said even though the title is less than 5 months away, EA has a plan, and that they're going to be talking about it in December before going right into a release.
Interesting.
Yeah, he said there's no issue with the game right now. This is just a case of planning to have a short window to promote.
Which has been the Star Wars' thing for the past couple years now.
Yes.
Like, oh, this is coming out in July. Okay, we're going to talk about it in May. Or maybe June.
and I think what we have here, if I was guessing, is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. They don't want too much leaking with this game. They don't want too much leaking. They probably don't want to show a whole lot of what this game really is. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff that's going to happen within this game, and they don't want too much of that coming out. They don't want to show that much.
Yeah.
They want you to see it within the game. And I know, me personally, I don't really want to see too much of this game. I want to experience it, right? I don't want a bunch of trailers and stuff.
Tells you half the story.
Which we've gotten a little teaser trailer, and really that was enough for me.
Sure,
I'm already sold on playing this game. You don't have to show me anything else. I'm gonna play it.
Right.
But there will be more. They're gonna show more. And he said December, and that actually lines up perfectly with the Game Awards, which is the big show in December that Jeff Keighley always does.
Yeah.
And while they do the awards, they also announce a bunch of new games, show new trailers, etc.
It's a perfect time for
It'll be the perfect time. Yeah. It'll probably be one of the openers or closing of the event, because it'll be a big one.
Right.
And it'll probably show some more gameplay there. And then they'll give us that official date of release. And so, this is encouraging to me. Here, seeing him say this means, hey, they're just planning on having a short window, but everything's good, and it's most likely still going to come out. That's encouraging to me. I hope it's the case.
Yeah.
I hope that in March we're going to be talking about how awesome this game is. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. So I guess time will only tell.
Time.
But in terms of time, we're going long, so let's get into our releases.
My dog, of course, is being crazy over here.
She senses the electromagnetic waves in the air when recording instruments are going.
I swear, dude, she knows somehow every time when we're recording, and she's like, "How dare he not pay attention to me right now?" That's what it feels like. But anyway, so let's go ahead and jump into our releases very quickly. On November 1st, we're getting the High Republic Quest for the Hidden City. This is the second book that we are receiving in Phase 2 of the High Republic. This is a junior reader. So now, I know a lot of you might have just said, oh, okay, not for me. But hold on. This is written by George Mann. And let me tell you, George Mann is currently one of my favorite Star Wars authors. He has written a lot of short stories and stuff for Star Wars, and they are just absolutely phenomenal. So don't write this off, even though it's a junior novel. George Mann has some really good stuff, so it might be worth checking out. But, of course, I'll let you know as we get closer.
Yeah.
Also, on November 1st, we're getting 3 new releases in the Essential Legends collection. We're getting the Old Republic Deceived, the Old Republic Revan, and the Back to War. So those are all going to be coming out. very cool covers. Of course, I have been collecting the Essential Legends collection like a goofball because I don't even have room to be collecting these. And they're not even canon.
What a nerd.
And what a nerd. But I've been doing it anyway, so I'm proud of myself. Anyways, November. Thank you. Yeah. November 2nd, we get Star Wars issue number 29, Bounty Hunters issue number 28, and The Mandalorian issue number 5. And then, of course, that day we also get the next episode of Andor. So lots of new Star Wars content still coming every week. Every week there's usually something new of Star Wars that you can partake in if you are
so please.
Yeah, so
so inclined.
So dive right in, enjoy it. Now, Braxton, I know that we were going to have a discussion. Do we have a discussion? Did our fans
double check
fail us?
I think
I think you guys have all failed us and did not even say anything. Let me just say,
so first of all,
it does hurt our feelings a little bit. We don't feel very important right now. However, I will say that listen, for those of you who watch or listen to this and never say anything, these group discussions would be a great time for you to jump in and let us know that you're listening, that you it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have some super insane crazy thing to say. You can say something simple and we'll still love that you comment. We'll still love that you interacted with us.
In fact, this week's question was like, basically, if you want to see a short series of any character, who would it be? And you could have just said Yoda, or what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, and we would have read it and we would have smiled.
Cried and smiled, laughed. Happy cry,
happy
what I'm saying?
Happy tears, yes.
Yeah, we had to pause the podcast
but now
for a while.
We have sad tears because none of you commented on it.
And are we guilt tripping you right now? Yeah, absolutely.
We are.
Because it breaks our little God-picking heart.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But, it's whatever. You guys don't want to talk to us?
It's fine. It's fine. It's whatever.
Anyways, no, what's funny is they probably will end up commenting on it. But it's
going to be like a day or two later.
Yeah, it's going to be like 2 days from now, and this is going to be well done and recorded. So it's not.
Yeah. Anyway, and those of you, let's just throw this out there. Mm-hmm. Those of you who sometimes have done that, there have been a couple people actually that have commented an answer that actually have been from somebody. How to say this? That is somebody that doesn't typically comment. Like, it's only happened like 1 or 2 times, and we didn't get your answer because the answer was provided after we already did the podcast.
Yeah. Now, don't let that necessarily stop you. We still want to see it. We still read them. We still get notifications anytime you guys do anything, and we look at it.
Yeah.
So we still love to see that. You just may not get it read on our podcast.
Right. And we do want to do that. So if that has deterred you because that's happened to you in the past, again, we apologize. But know that typically our recordings are on Thursday. So if you see a question that's after Thursday, most likely it's already been recorded. So just out there.
So basically, hurry and write something in as soon as you see us post, and that would be the best way to guarantee that you get it read.
Exactly. But we thank you nevertheless.
Yes, so. We thank you. We thank you for absolutely nothing this episode.
We absolutely thank you for nothing.
So actually, I do have something I want to talk about a little bit in sort of in the space of that we would normally have that, and that is the High Republic: Path of Deceit, which is the first novel in the High Republic Phase 2. And I have officially read through the entire book.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to go into a bunch of stuff with this. I'm not going to read, I'm not going to tell you guys a bunch of spoilers. I don't know how many of our listeners have read it yet, or if you even plan to read it. But I do want to kind of give you guys if I have a recommendation.
Yeah.
And Braxton, feel free to ask any questions you may have of it. No, thanks.
Yeah, I'm good.
So the first thing I want to make clear with this is, of course, as we have talked about, this is in the past, even farther back than what we had experienced already in the first phase. And so what this brings to the table is a family member of the row. Okay, I'll say that. Mm-hmm. There is the Rows are involved, and when I say the Rows, of course, I'm talking about the lineage of Markian Row. Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So,
I knew that.
so that's involved. What is my dog doing?
It's literally.
Oh my
goes
goodness!
Metal. She's absolutely metal.
So, that's involved, and then there, of course, are some new Jedi, things of that nature. But I will say that this book, in my opinion, is not anywhere close to where I hold the books in Phase 1.
Yeah, I'd imagine not.
Now, essentially, and I'm judging this on the adult novels of the first phase. And
true. The reason, it's kind of hard to compare.
The reason I'm doing that is because they're treating this young adult novel as the one, okay, the one that's furthering the plot.
Yeah.
Like they did the adult novels in the first phase.
It's such a weird decision.
Weird decision. Still not sure what went on there, but authors are always weird. Like they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to bring that up because they want to be like, oh, they're all the same. It's like, well, if they were all the same, why would they be labeled differently? Anyway. So
exactly.
But what I'm finding here is that if most of the novel is a build-up, a very slow burn, okay? Very, very slow burn. And it really picks up at the end in a surprising way.
Yeah.
And I will say that way that it ramps up does have connections to what we see in the first phase.
Oh, okay.
So some things that happen in the first phase, I guess the best way to put it is it's starting to show maybe some of the beginnings of things that you've already seen come to pass in the first phase.
Okay?
Right.
Makes sense.
And that makes sense, right? Because it's a prequel.
Yeah.
But in certain mysteries that we still had in the first phase. Okay?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it's kind of explaining some things that maybe
we know a lot of the mysterious elements comes from Markian Row's family and
exactly
and stuff.
Exactly.
So if we're going into some of his lineage and stuff like that, I can see how they could kind of support up some of those things. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that. For those of you who are wondering, do I want to jump into this or not? The answer I guess I would give you is how invested are you in furthering your understanding of what is happening in within the main story of Phase 1. If you're like, I need more answers to some of these mysteries, you may find what you're looking for, or at least the beginnings of what you're looking for. Because this of course is leading into more books in this phase, so don't think you're going to get all your answers here. But you can definitely see where they're heading with it. But what I will say is of course I've only read the first book, but what I will say is what I've read, I don't feel like this is necessary for the next phase yet. Like I feel like you could read Phase 1 and jump straight to Phase 3 and probably be okay. And with some knowledge missing of some background stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think they can kind of get away with it a little bit because it's a prequel. Mm-hmm. It's like, here's the story. Now we're going to jump back in time, and then the final phase will be going back to where we were and finishing it off. And I think that they kind of get away with like, oh, we're going to start this whole thing off with a YA novel or whatever it is, right? Yeah. Because its primary goal, and I could be totally wrong, and I'm sure they'll prove me wrong if that's the case through the other books, but the primary purpose of this phase is to give more foundation and context and understanding, whatever you want to say, to what we already have learned and setting up for the final phase. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, again, as you said, this is just the first book, right? In the first phase, in the first wave. So yeah, more to come on that for sure.
Yeah, and I'll continue to let you guys know, is this phase worth reading? Which books are most important? Stuff like that. I'll let you guys know. Because I know some of you guys, you don't have time to or want to spend the time to read every single book. You just want to know the ones that are
Right.
vitally important. And that's kind of where Braxton is.
That's kind of where I am.
And
I don't read as much. Well, I only read a fraction of amount as Drew does, and I just don't feel like reading every single nook and cranny.
Yeah,
of
and
the
you had
Star Wars
already,
universe,
asked me like, so should I,
should I read this or not?
One? And I think I basically told you no. If I remember
yeah,
right,
I'm pretty
so.
sure. Yeah. He's like, I think you basically said what you said. Like,
yeah,
it gives more context, but really at the end of the day, it's not like the next big step in the story.
Right. And so as things go on, maybe my opinions will change based on where the story goes.
Right.
Things of that nature. But as of right now, I would not say this is a must.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I said this in a previous episode, but like even if this whole phase, which again I hope to be wrong, but even if this whole phase is not super necessary and it's more just like to give you filler, to give you foundation, to give you background for what you already know, I'll probably still read the adult novels because I really did enjoy the adult novels in phase 1. I really did. And I think it's a really unique look into a new era of Star Wars that it's new, but somehow because it's old in the era, it kind of gives you that. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say,
I know
but yeah. So anyway, I'll probably read the adult novels, but we'll see how it plays out in terms of the story, if it's necessary or not. So
yeah. So moving into kind of our main topics of the show, how do you want? What do you want to do first?
kind of feel like we should have discussed this before the podcast, but
yeah. So what are you feeling right now? Do you want to talk some Andor, or do you want to talk some Tales of the Jedi?
I'd rather do Tales of the Jedi first because that's more what I've been
You're gonna be
interested
checked
in.
out on Andor.
By the time we get to Andor, I'll be done.
My man's checked out.
Yeah,
He'll be over there drooling, glazed eyes.
we still have a whole other podcast after this. Okay. So anyway,
We work so hard for you, and you don't even respond to us on Facebook. No, I'm just kidding.
I quit. I'm just kidding. Okay, seriously. So, Tales of the Jedi, as you guys know, is a 6-episode short story anthology based around Count Dooku and Ahsoka. And this came out as of yesterday from our recording, which would be October 26th on Wednesday. And each of these episodes were approximately probably 10 to 20 minutes in length, hovering around more like 15 on average. And there's 3 for Dooku and 3 for Ahsoka. So again, I guess we could just kind of like, hey, episode 1 is this, and we'll kind of just go through the story, discuss our thoughts and feelings on it, I guess, right? Is how you want to do it like that? Or what would be more expedient?
I mean, I think we can just go through them one by one, episode wise. But I mean, before we do that though, I do want to ask, like, just right off the top, which one was your favorite?
Which episode?
Yeah.
As much as I love her, the Dooku episodes were way better than the Ahsoka episodes for me. Now, I really enjoyed the Ahsoka episodes.
No, I'm with you.
But the
I
Dooku,
agree.
because I think it's because it's fresh. I mean, we've always wanted to know more about Dooku, and seeing him on screen is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I
we
guess.
were in uncharted territory,
Right.
in comparison to Ahsoka that we have gotten so much of in Clone Wars and stuff, right? So
I would have to say, and again, it's a kind of a toss-up for me because there's the 3rd Count Dooku episode is amazing. But I have to say, just for myself, I think that my favorite one was probably episode 2, which was Count Dooku and his young Padawan, Qui-Gon Jinn, and they're on this planet to help like resolve the tension there or whatever. I have to say that's probably my favorite.
okay.
Because we finally start to see the transition of Dooku there into the dark side, or at least at the very least getting away from the Jedi. And of course we get to see Qui-Gon as a Padawan, which is just, I mean, come on.
Fun fact, Liam Neeson's son voiced Qui-Gon in that episode.
Really? I didn't know that. That's cool. That is cool. Yeah.
So.
And it's just kind of, on a side note, I texted this to you. You never responded, of course. But I think it was kind of hilarious.
I don't remember this.
Silence. You used to.
I don't remember you texting me.
Yes, you did.
No, I don't.
Yes, you did. Anyway, so I love the character models for Dooku and Qui-Gon because Dooku looks so cartoonish and he has this huge nose and it's just like it's very like it just doesn't look very detailed. Also, you look at Qui-Gon and it's like literally like this most beautiful, lifelike, angelic sculpt of.
They've always done that with Dooku though, in that animation, like the Clone Wars animation. Yeah. They've always made Dooku look like this. Like,
why does he look like that?
I don't know why they did it that way, but
and it's like okay, whatever. It's a cartoon, so they can get away with doing some weird designs. But what just cracked me up so much was how goofy he looked compared to Qui-Gon, who's like again like just perfect. Like you can like that looks exactly like a young Liam Neeson. Right. Anyway.
Yeah.
I thought that's funny.
Yeah.
So again, I could argue that some of the other ones were better, but I just the inclusion of seeing Dooku kind of snap and seeing Qui-Gon as a Padawan, those two things just really like resonated with me. But what was your favorite then?
Mine would have to be episode 4, which is the third episode of with Dooku.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's I could argue that one was probably my favorite too, but
that one was my favorite for sure. Really enjoyed that one actually, and we'll talk about it more. But let's go ahead and start with episode 1 and get through that. We can the ones that we're more passionate about we can talk more about. Starting with episode 1, Life and Death. So this is the episode I saw at Celebration. Yeah. So I actually did not rewatch it.
Yeah.
Because
it's probably the weakest episode, probably.
Now, I would say there's a very large audience that that loves this episode.
Sure.
Because of their love for Ahsoka.
Yeah.
You're seeing a baby Ahsoka.
Like her being born.
So I know that's a big thing probably for a certain audience. Not really for me though.
Yeah. We see also a very cool look into Targruda, like classic Targruda culture, kind of the old ways of Targruda culture. Another really cool thing too, and I guess we should kind of stop here. Of course, as always, when we do our main topics, there will be full spoilers. We're
correct. Yes.
Diving into this, right? But yeah, full spoilers for this. So I apologize for not saying this earlier. But anyway, I'm sure you probably don't care if you're listening to this. So, but yeah, what's also very cool is we see, this saber-toothed tiger-looking thing, and we see the very first time in which Ahsoka taps into the Force, and kind of like a lot of Jedi do.
Apologies for the dogs barking.
The hellhounds have awoken. No, but for real though, quiet back there. Shut up. Anyway, guys, we're back in. No, for real though, but we see this very cool thing where she connects with this animal. There's a lot of kind of like Jedi do. They connect with the animals. We see Ezra do it a lot in Rebels, etc. And of course, she comes back riding it. it's hilarious,
and I think in the end, what this episode really does is goes to show you that Ahsoka was very special from the get-go, right?
Right.
She was not ever going to be just an ordinary person. She was always meant for more, always meant for something greater.
Yeah.
And that shows in the fact that even as a little baby, she soothes and controls this
massive beast,
right?
Yeah,
and comes riding in, and that's kind of that beginning of this girl is something very special.
Now, this is something so minor, but what kind of caught me off guard, I don't even know why. It's just so minor. You guys are probably thinking, like, why would you even think this? But it was so funny to me that this Targruda, like, matriarch, refers to her all of a sudden as, like, she's Jedi. Like, it's just, like, on almost every culture and throughout Star Wars, especially in these, like, old world type cultures that we see, they always have their own like name for the Force. They already have their own like name for people who deal with the Force and stuff. So it just kind of caught me off guard. Like, why would she just immediately call her a Jedi? Like, why would she say like, oh, she's one with the Force, or why she's? I don't know. It was just something. It's not a negative thing. It's just kind of funny to me.
Well, if I remember right, the matriarch clearly has some kind of like Force connection too, right?
She sensed it or whatever.
I think there was something. It's been a while since I watched it because I didn't rewatch it, but. If I remember correctly, but yeah, I mean, it was a fun little story, a very lighthearted story, but then brings us into episode 2, Justice, which then takes a much darker turn, right? The contrast there is quite significant. As we go into episode 2, where we're now telling the story of Dooku. I want to say very interesting that they chose to first play the first episode being Ahsoka,
and then immediately jump to a Dooku
and then
episode.
jump to the 3 Dooku episodes,
or the 3 in a row.
Well,
yeah.
but the reason is for whatever reason they chose to do it in chronological order. I mean, that has to be it, right?
That must be it.
That
yeah.
I assume that's the case, right?
Man, you'd almost think that that you would think that this event with Ahsoka being born and stuff like that would fall after this episode, but I don't know. Maybe not.
Hold on a second. Let me
tap into the Force, aka his notes.
Yeah, let me look at. I don't remember where I stuck it in my timeline.
I don't know. For some reason, I just in back of my mind, I would just feel like she was born really close to Phantom Menace, if not after Phantom Menace or something like that. Because she doesn't even become a Padawan, which is 10, 12 maybe.
Yeah, I have the Dooku, the first 2 Dooku episodes before that.
Yeah, so
that would make sense, I guess.
So it's not
Qui-Gon. Yeah, Qui-Gon's young, so
yeah, I mean,
so it wouldn't be chronological.
Qui-Gon's literally older and then dead. Well, think about this: Qui-Gon died when Anakin was just a kid, younger than
right.
Padawan.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
so
it's now we're thinking about it.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
So it's clearly not chronological.
So I have no idea why they did it that way. Then I guess is what I'm getting at. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It's very strange that they chose to put the one Ahsoka episode first, and then maybe they thought if they start with Dooku, it would scare people off, and they're like, this is too dark.
It could. But then again, one could argue that it's this random little baby character and it's too sweet, it may drive some people off. But I guess you win some, you lose some. You're never gonna have the right formula.
I don't know. It's an interesting choice. That's all I'll say.
But so in this second episode, Justice, like I said, we see a younger but mature Dooku. He is he's a Jedi Knight at this point, and he has a Padawan, which is of course Qui-Gon Jinn. And they go to this planet, and again, as kind of mentioned earlier, they're trying to dissolve some tension between the leadership of this planet and their native inhabitants. And make a very long story short, they came on kind of the behest of the Jedi Order and not by the behest of the Senate. And so the senator, who's kind of corrupted and evil and mistreating his people, he doesn't know that they're there. And these people have kidnapped his son, and they're coming in, and they're trying to solve this, and basically the son gets convinced, and even Dooku and Qui-Gon to some degree, that this is actually they're doing it to just get attention, hey, please see what's going on here.
Yeah.
And that they're not just evil, but they're desperate. Long story short, we see and again, we see this throughout the 3 episodes, but again, we see just little tidbits of conversation and little tidbits of things that Dooku observes, which is so cool, that continually gets a worse and worse image of the Jedi. But anyway, long story short, the senator dad comes in with his little army basically and tries to take back his son, and so Dooku and Qui-Gon naturally try to intervene, or hey, we're here to resolute this, stand down. And he's like, no, you serve the Senate. And he's like, no, we serve the people. And but that was one of those little moments, right? He's like,
yeah,
the Jedi serves the Senate, not the people. Anyway, he's like, and well, I don't want to get too deep into it, but anyway. So basically they're fighting a losing battle, just as classic Jedi, right? Just deflecting the blaster, bolts, I guess what you guys would call it. Anyway, and people are dying, getting hit and falling. And eventually Dooku just gets mad. Also, he just starts force choking the senator and starts killing all of the the guards or whatever. And that was so baller, I have to admit. I'm like, that was so good.
Yeah, and again, the animation is just on another level. It looks so good, and it's so the way they created this. It feels so dark the whole time. It's just the gritty darkness of it all. It feels different than when you watch Clone Wars.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Through these episodes.
Yeah.
Really, through all of them almost, other than some of the Ahsoka stuff. But even some of the Ahsoka stuff that takes place
Later
in those
on,
darker times has that gritty darkness to it. But I just want to give shout out to how good it looks.
Yeah. So, and I could kind of give you more detail, but that's really about it. And basically, Qui-Gon gets the son, says, "Go save your dad." He gets between Dooku and his dad, and says, "Please don't do this," And then, but at the end of the day, it's all better. You can clearly tell that the senator's like humiliated and he won't talk, and he gets shipped away. But it's all better, seemingly. And they're gonna send aid to these people and stuff. But Qui-Gon's is like, Qui-Gon's like, why did you take this into your own hands like this, And basically Dooku's just like, sometimes you have to do that to get stuff done, And that was kind of the end of the episode. But it was just, I don't know why, I just love that so much.
Well, and what's funny is like they wait to do the name drop on Qui-Gon till the end.
Yeah,
and it's like,
we know who it is.
Was it really anyone that didn't understand? I mean, I guess it probably was. Yeah. I shouldn't,
But like I said, it was like a 1-to-1 sculpt of Liam Neeson's head. Like it did not need to.
Yeah, it's funny
though. But it was kind of cool though too, because you could see how different Qui-Gon was, even from not just Dooku, but from the Jedi too of that time. And he's like, I don't know, just to show that he's kind of a different Jedi and how he approached it differently than Dooku did. It's just cool. Anyway.
Yes.
So I've spent way too much time on that, but
very good. So then going into episode 3, which is titled Choices.
Another good episode.
So this is where we get Count Dooku and Mace Windu.
Yeah.
So Mace Windu looks exactly the same.
A little alien-like, a little more alien-like, but yeah.
I'll give you that.
Kind of a bulbous head, big eyes.
He kind of always but he kind of always looks that way.
What are you saying about Samuel L. Jackson, man?
I'm just saying the way they draw him.
No,
or whatever.
I know.
But
yeah, he looks exactly the same as he does in any other animation whatsoever.
It's just like they really did not try to make
him younger.
I thought maybe give him some hair. You know what I mean? Something to make it like, oh, this is before, But anyway, no, he looks like he looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
But they were sent to get a Jedi's body for a proper burial.
Yeah. Because she died on this planet,
Yeah, and so they go to, I don't remember what the planet is, but
yeah, I don't know.
They're there to see Senator Lyric.
Yeah,
and they go and meet this informant and
put here, like, from the get go, Dooku's already like suspicious. Like, how did this Jedi die? Like what is the circumstances that happened?
Right. Oh, and also, is this the? No, that was. Which episode is it that Dooku basically says we're doing this without the? It is this episode. This
I don't know what you're talking about.
Him and Mace Windu are talking about what they're doing, and basically he's saying that the council.
Oh yeah, like basically, Mace Windu keeps saying that we need to take this information back to the Senate or to the council and let them decide what to do. And Dooku's like, we're going to take this into our own hands. Like, we're going to do this,
Right. So moving on, they're eventually ambushed by guards. And then we get some fighting there, and Dooku kills one of them, and there's one final guy that's down, and he admits that he killed the Jedi. Right?
Yeah.
And so what happens after that? I'm trying to remember.
Basically, the son. It's like a father and son kind of situation there. Mm-hmm. These two guards, and the son's like, you Senate pigs or you Senate dogs, like servants of the Senate, you'll die. And so he gets up and tries to shoot him, and Mace Windu blocks it and hits him. And the dad's like, no. And basically, what comes around is that, like, basically everything, this dad's saying, like, everything that you do is for the Senate. You're not peacekeepers, you're soldiers for the Senate. And it's so cool because you see, all of a sudden it goes to Dooku's face. Nothing said. You can see him, like, the gears turning. He's like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, holy cow. Like, at the end of the day, the Jedi only protect the rich and wealthy. That's what he said. Yeah. And that's when he's like, oh my gosh, maybe you're right. And so then it kind of clips to him being in a jail cell, and he's, everyone kind of walks off, but Dooku stays behind, and he's like, basically it's like, although I don't approve of your methods, I do understand where you're coming from. And he's like, oh, I would not expect to hear this from a Jedi, you know. So it's so cool because you just get to see how he turned and why he turned to the dark side.
Right.
You know?
And then they go back to they bring the body back to the council.
Yeah, this is cool.
And this is a cool moment because, well, first of all, the like little funeral scene that they do is neat, and how the light shoots up, and
that. Yeah,
and they're in this dark room, and that was cool. But afterwards, Dooku and Mace Windu are standing outside, and Dooku,
Master Windu, a moment.
yeah, and he's like, so Mace Windu got seat on the council.
So the Jedi that died.
The Jedi that died is the reason that Mace Windu gets seat on the council. So that's kind of interesting.
Cool. Yeah,
but basically he's like, did you do this?
Did you already know about this before this happened?
Yeah, and basically, did you do all this just so you could get a seat on the council?
Yeah.
This is essentially what he was accusing him of. And then Mace Windu's like, no, I didn't.
I was just as surprised as you were.
I was just surprised as you were.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, I kind of wonder if there was... I kind of wonder if that was like multi-layered. Like, I wonder if Mace Windu wasn't necessarily honest in that.
Yeah, I don't know. See that.
But
basically, Mace Windu said the reason you didn't get it instead of me is because you went against protocol and went against what the
right,
blah blah blah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you can tell he's kind of annoyed with all of that, and then he just kind of turns around and looks off into the sky. But it's just kind of a cool moment.
Sad Dooku
there.
hours.
Yeah. As a tear rolls down his face. I want to be in the council.
You gave me the rank of master, but you don't give me a council. Anyway, so yeah, then that kind of brings us to our fourth episode, which is kind of the craziest of the bunch, and this is Drew's favorite. It's called The Sith Lord.
Yeah, and this one is just
This is a great episode.
This one's great. And so the first thing we see is Count Dooku walking through the archives. And
this is cool.
Yeah, he's walking through, and you can tell he's like trying to be kind of
a little shady.
Yeah, a little shady. And he goes and basically he goes in and deletes Camino. So there you go, folks.
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
So let's say this real quick, just back up. On an overview level, this episode actually answers so many questions in lore.
Yeah,
this
it does.
Episode it's only like 15 minutes long, and it answers at least like 3 to 4 questions.
It's so cool.
Anyway, yeah.
So cool. But yeah, so he deletes Planet Camino.
Yeah.
From the records. And so then you notice everybody's like excited or something, and he's like
what's going on?
And I say Qui-Gon's encountered a Sith Lord in Tatooine.
So this is so cool because this is in Phantom Menace, right?
Exactly, right. Yeah. So that was really cool.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I knew this but didn't know this. Like, I think I already knew it, but I just kind of caught me off guard to think that, like, Dooku was still in the Jedi Order during Phantom Menace.
So I don't know that that's necessarily the case.
Yeah.
I think that Dooku was welcomed at the...
He wasn't actually
but he wasn't actually in anymore.
Oh, okay.
That's my understanding of it, because I think at this point in the timeline, he would already have stepped away as a Jedi. Okay. But multiple sources, different books and things have talked about how he was always welcomed at the temple, and he would come and visit and stuff.
Oh,
but I don't think he was necessarily
like a full-fledged Jedi, though. Like in the Order. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where we're at this
Makes
point.
Sense.
And so and honestly, one of the main things of that is he's never met Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's true.
And
so it kind of clips a little bit later on, and Qui-Gon's finally back at the temple, and he meets up with them. And of course, in that scene, we also see the Queen herself, Yaddle.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, he meets up with Qui-Gon, and he's like, because he's about to go in this room or whatever. And he's like, "Hold on, my young Padawan." And he said, he's basically asking about this Sith Lord and talking to him about it, and meeting up with them. And I don't remember where I was going with that. My mind went blank, but yeah. Because I was trying to tie it back to something you just said, but I don't remember what you just said.
Well, so we know that... So Qui-Gon is returned, and Yaddle is there, so Yaddle is voiced by
The Jurassic Queen.
Jurassic Queen, yeah. What is her name? Bryce Dallas Howard, who is Ron Howard's daughter, who has directed in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, her dad directed Jurassic Park. In case you didn't know. In case you guys don't know about that joke, like back during Mandalorian season 1, like when we did those reviews, that was a huge inside joke then. Go check it out.
Yeah. So she's the voice of Yaddle, and here's the thing, guys. It's officially revealed that Yoda's species doesn't talk like Yoda. Yoda just has a speech impediment. Like
Yoda just has a straight up speech impediment.
Yeah, he's an outcast. He doesn't like the rest of them.
Come on, Yoda.
Like so Grogu, gonna talk like his mom, not his dad.
yeah.
Because
exactly.
Come on, guys. Come on. Actually, I have another theory, but we'll get to that.
I have the other theory.
Oh, you have another theory too?
Oh, of why Yoda speaks like he does?
No. Oh, no. What's your theory on why Yoda speaks the way he does?
Sometimes I have to be careful because I have things that pop in my head.
Careful.
That I shouldn't say.
Careful.
On a clean, family-friendly podcast. No, but some people said I saw some. Stop taunting me, okay? Don't goad me into saying something I shouldn't. No, I heard some people say that like basically he's so old that common was spoke differently when he learned it. And so, because how we have the these and thous in modern, in old English.
I don't like that though.
I'm just saying that's what some people said. Also,
honestly, there's no really, in my opinion, there is no good reason because no matter what you, I don't know. Well, anyways, we'll move on. I think it's not long after that then it jumps forward again and Dooku has said his goodbyes to Qui-Gon.
Yeah, Qui-Gon's died.
Qui-Gon has died. The council are going to Naboo for the funeral or whatever, and Dooku basically
and Yaddle's
says,
he's like, would you like to come along with the council as a formal invitation? And he's like, I don't think I would be very good company. And she's like, oh, you blame the council for this? And I don't remember exactly what he says after that, but kind of like, yeah, a little bit. And it's kind of cool. A little throwback is that where he's sitting is in front of that like life tree or whatever, which you see in the final episode of season 6 of Clone Wars. Kind of interesting.
Yes.
Only time we've seen that. And so he's kind of sitting there, and it's like the tree's dead, and the leaves have like fallen off, and he's just sitting there like sullen, and it's cool because like, dude, like that's the moment and we've talked about this before, and that's kind of like the understood lore before Disney came in, that like what really drove what truly, like the very end of the day, like the final nail in the coffin that drove Dooku to the dark side was when Qui-Gon died. And I think that's kind of like the common thing, but I think that's really shown there too. It's like you can just see like the darkness is over him. He's just like, I'm done. This is the
Well, and what's interesting is it's kind of because of his own things he's putting into motion that Qui-Gon has died, right?
Yeah.
And he knows it. Yeah. And that's why he immediately leaves and he heads straight to the Emperor himself. And Yaddle, knowing something's up, she follows him to see where he goes. And so he gets there. Of course, we see the Emperor, voiced by Ian McDermott in this.
Of course, naturally.
And he's basically like, you let Maul go too far in killing.
This was never the plan.
Yeah.
Like,
he's like, what's the deal? I kind of wish I'd seen a little more push from Dooku on that, because he pretty quickly just kind of like, yes, master, and kind of just, I think I think I would have liked to have seen Dooku go to Palpatine and like with the intent of killing Palpatine over killing Qui-Gon.
Yeah, or at least confronting him with violence type thing.
And then being essentially beat into submission.
That would have been good.
I think that would have been a much more powerful, and because instead he goes and is like, you went too far, but then he just kind of moves on.
It's like, this is for a greater cause, and you know it.
And like, you know what I mean? Fine, it's like, yeah, it kind of takes away from the understanding of how much
Qui-Gon meant to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it would have been cool is like basically he went and then they fought, and then basically Palpatine beat him down, and all of a sudden they notice Yaddle, and he's like, "Here's how you can prove my loyalty after I beat you down."
Right.
That would have been kind of a cool thing, but
yeah. So, anyways, that's kind of a minor complaint, but so then of course Yaddle overhears it. So now Yaddle, like, she knows, right?
Yeah.
So basically, she confronts him, and Dooku's like, "Oh, you overheard." So basically, Dooku's like, "Oh,
there's no choice now.
I gotta kill you.
Yeah.
Sorry."
Yeah, like I've done too much. Like I can't go back.
Exactly. And so here we get a fight, really cool fight scene with, and I do like there's you see some Yoda in there. You see some Yoda in her moves,
right.
like she's doing some
little flippy stuff,
some little flips and bouncing off the wall and stuff.
Yeah.
That they definitely mirrored off of Yoda. I wish we would have gotten a little more answers on the relationship. I would have loved one scene with Yaddle and Yoda.
Yeah. Underground girlfriend shit.
Baby mama.
Stay very far away from baby mama. I must.
Or even like bickering like brother and sister, or
something. Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see.
Yeah.
Whatever they would have come up with for that.
Got some fatter you have.
But yeah. So then they're fighting, and Dooku gets Yaddle in like the doorway, because Yaddle's like, you can tell Yaddle's like, I'm gonna die. I gotta get out of here. Like, I'm not gonna win this.
Yeah.
So she's like, you can tell she's kind of looking, okay, my ship's back there. How do I get to it? And then that's when Dooku closes the door. It looks like it like cuts her in half, right?
Yeah, like smashes her at least.
And so I thought this was an interesting choice as well, because so then they kind of move on, like, oh, she's dead, you know. But then all of a sudden the door rises back up. And they're triumphant music and everything, and she comes back out, and then
she just dies.
But she still she falls over.
She's like exhausted, I guess, because she used so much force. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a dumb cop out. But
and then Dooku just kills her anyways. I'm not sure what the point of. I'm not really sure what the point of it was. That part
just
was
to show that she's powerful.
I guess.
I don't
know. I mean, again, I'm like. I'm complaining about
very
stuff
minor,
here, but I truly did really love this episode.
Genuinely love this episode.
I love this episode. It's really, really good. But so here's what I wanted to say is, so Yaddle then dies in the room with Palpatine.
Yeah.
And Dooku, right?
Yeah.
So I think Grogu
is born right there.
I think Grogu probably was cloned from her body. They had access to her body.
Yeah.
They could have took it to Camino or whatever. And because now that we know the Sith Lords literally had her body, that changes everything in my opinion.
That's true. I mean, why it would make it into a male though? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But
well, that I don't know necessarily, but it could have just been. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean they made a exact replica, right?
Yeah.
They could have...
True. Extrapolated the DNA and, like, reformed it into something else type thing. I don't know.
Now, there was always that one line in the first season of Mandalorian that they say something about it not being a clone, right? Wasn't there something said about... I don't know. I don't remember. It doesn't matter, because that dude could have been wrong. But
it could have been
basically, I'm just saying that does bring a whole new level of. Now, the only question would then be.
But we know that Grogu goes back to the temple.
Exactly,
though,
and that was what I was going to say.
I was gonna say.
That does still bring the question of then, well, how and why would Grogu be back at the temple? And so, but anyways, just a thought I thought I would throw out there, because it is interesting that, you know, in the end, she ends up being killed right there in front of the Sith Lords.
Maybe the males have the babies.
And honestly, I don't think... I mean... poor Yoda.
Yoda, he's pregnant. Apparently I have the childbearing hips I do. Baby mama, more like baby dada.
Oh my. Yeah, I don't know how that would necessarily all work out, but I do think, you know, listen, there was a male and a female species of Yodas. And
the only ones that we know of.
And the only ones that we ever know of, and there just so happens to also be a baby one of those also at the temple. Okay? Like, you can't tell me it's not their child. I'm just saying, you cannot tell me.
Come on.
And it's like, that goes against everything that Yoda believes in, and that's the only problem with it.
But it kind of makes sense though, because like at the end of
He's
all, like
out of duty, I am doing this.
a greater duty to my species I am doing.
That's,
it transcends my oath to the Jedi Order.
But what if that is like? What if it was like
a continuance of life, and they getting his own pardon,
like being like in all seriousness, it's like they're the only ones they know of. So to continue
Makes
the
sense.
species,
it
was like okay, this can happen. Like the order was like this can happen because we need the species not to die off. And so Yoda's like, a win I have.
free card I have.
Free pass.
Use this wisely, I shall. So many things I want to say right now, but to keep our clean rating on Apple Podcasts, I am not going to say anything. There's so many funny things I can say, though. Anyway, moving on.
Never mind. I have so many things
in my head right now. Say right now.
Oh, but anyways. Yeah, great episode. To see and Dooku killing Yaddle, I think, is supposed to be the very last.
Like there's no coming back.
That if there was ever a chance of him coming back, if there was any ounce of the light side left in him, it died when Yaddle died.
Right.
And when he essentially executed her, he completely gave in to the dark side at that point. And very similar to kind of Anakin, and with Anakin killing Mace Windu, I think was kind of the final nail in the coffin too, right? Like when he with Palpatine killed Mace Windu, killed. I'm using air quotations right now for you guys,
quote unquote. That's the only in there.
When he cut off his hand,
did whatever he did. I don't know.
Anyways, so that was interesting to see, and absolutely a huge piece of lore that will forever be important. Like, that's going to be an episode that in the future, we're going to reference back to. And honestly, kind of like I would love to rewatch episode 1 with those instances thrown in. Because it kind of does what Clone Wars did for Revenge of the Sith, where it filled in some things. Like that episode kind of did that for Phantom Menace. There's some spots in there you could throw that in and would be interesting to watch.
That like I said, seals the cracks, so to speak, a little bit. Anyway.
It's really cool.
So the 5th episode is coming back finally to Ahsoka, is called Practice Makes Perfect. And this is actually kind of just a really simple, like straightforward, I feel, episode,
very simple.
Right?
Not really a whole lot to say
Not too much to it,
But I did find what they did with it very cool.
Yeah,
because we do get. I have to give a shout out to my man Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is visually different than we've ever seen him in Clone Wars, because they kept his hair longer, like Attack of the Clones. Yeah. So he's already got his clone armor on, but he still has like the hairstyle of his Attack of the Clones,
right?
Where they had already started to try to shift him a little more towards episode 3 appearance when they did the Clone Wars animation. So so that was cool to see. So in that episode, we do essentially Ahsoka is doing really well with the typical like training that the Jedi at her age are getting, right? She's like phenomenal with the droids. They can't touch her.
Right.
So, Kenobi and who else was in there with him?
Like the trainer was like that Tara Sanubi.
Yeah. So they're in there and they're like, this is impressive. She's doing well.
She's doing very good.
And Anakin's like, no, this isn't.
Yeah. It's impressive for the average person. It's like, but you don't need to be average.
Right. And Anakin has seen, he's seeing what he knows she can be. Like, he knows she can do much better.
Yeah.
So he, of course, gets Rex and the boys. And basically wants her to train with them, and of course they circle around her, start shooting, and they take her out really quickly. And so essentially the entire rest of the episode,
first of all, stunned.
The entire rest of the episode is just her getting back up and retrying over and over again. And so it does that over and over, but then all of a sudden it jumps time.
Right.
And you see it's later.
It's the end of season 7.
Not yet. Oh. It jumps one time before that, and it's just like sometime during the Clone Wars. I don't know exactly when, but it was it jumps once.
Must have forgotten.
And she's doing better now, but she still hasn't done like perfect.
Oh, okay.
And then it jumps again, and it's towards the very end of it, and she's
blocking them all.
Yeah, blocking them all. And
Gotta block 'em all.
And then it goes to the very end, where they go into the room with all the after Order 66.
Right.
And basically the whole episode was just a show that like it was because of Anakin's teaching and
sorry, go
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and Rex literally says, like, let's see if all that training paid off.
See if all that training paid off.
Now, one thing they didn't show, which I was kind of surprised they didn't at least show a clip of it, but so when she's doing the training, right, with all the 501st all around her, right?
Yeah.
And she's blocking it literally, it's the exact same thing in like one of the last episodes of season 7 of Clone Wars, where she's sitting on that little like a hologram table, and she's blocking all of the bullets up into the thing. But that's the exact scenario, which was kind of a cool thing. I wish they kind of like showed just a glimpse of that to remind people like you and me and maybe some of our listeners would remember that. But anyway.
But yeah, super cool. When it went to that and showed her walking in, I was just like, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm glad that was neat.
Yeah.
That was neat.
Yeah.
But again, it not really like anything real like significant out of the episode, but still cool to see. And
let's preface too that you're not going to get a lot of crazy new things because there's so much about Ahsoka that we know of and that we've seen through all the different shows like Clone Wars, Rebels, etc. And so that's why I think the Dooku episodes were so substantial, because you don't have that. Anyway.
Right.
So moving on to our last episode and the final short, which is called Resolve. And basically this is a few years after Order 66 has occurred, and she's basically pulling a
Whoa. Before that, it's right after Revenge of the Sith, and she's at Padme's funeral.
Oh, goodness, I keep forgetting like little things here.
It shows Padme's funeral going on, and it shows that she was like, she's got a hood on it, but she's watching it, and Belle happens to see her in the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's when he basically tells her like, you're crazy for being here, and you probably need to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so she leaves. And then it jumps forward.
Well, and he gives her like a little transponder.
Yeah. He gives her the transponder, yeah.
But so cutting forward a few years, and she's trying to pull an Obi-Wan, where she's kind of working out in like this rural area, and but not doing it nearly successfully hiding wise, because it was just such a goofy scene. I love the episode, and I love Ahsoka, but it was such a goofy scene that basically like they're piling up these hay bales, and basically, of course, like one of them's being like sloppy, and she's like, I don't care if it's gonna fall, or and they go off, and all these hay bales almost fall on this girl, and so Ahsoka uses the Force to kind of block her and push the hay bales away from her. But of course, they pan over after this has already happened like 30 seconds ago, and she's still sitting there holding her hand out. I'm like, what are you doing? You know you're not supposed to do that, and you're going to hold this pose, not even using the Force for like 30 seconds so someone sees you. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Come on. Anyway. But anyways, this is an arbitrary thing. But long story short, it kind of goes away. That girl's the only one that saw it. But then so that night, she kind of confronts her in a good way, like, hello, Master Jedi, and she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I know what you did, and she's like, you're mistaken, and
she has this big shocked look on her face. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not a Jedi. And it's like, no, you're a citizen, as Mace Windu would put it. Anyway,
yeah.
So hurt feelings. Anyway, but of course this like, Imperial bootlicker sympathizer guy who thinks that the Empire is good overhears and turns her in. So while that girl and Ahsoka's off the next day to deliver some hay bales to the Empire port somewhere, they come back, and all of a sudden this village that they were working at is on fire, and everything's burning, and you don't see very many people, and all of a sudden that guy that turned her in, and like another cohort of theirs, are laying on the ground at saber point by an Inquisitor. Very cool. And the Inquisitor looks pretty sick. Like has like this like cool, sick, like almost like a bone bird looking mask. Very cool.
Yeah, and we don't know how much time has passed.
Right.
At this point, after Revenge of the Sith. I don't believe it ever really tells. But you assume it can't be
not too
much
much
time, right?
Yeah.
But
clearly, and this is how we know it's not too far, because I feel like clearly at this point they're just trying to pump out Inquisitors, because we see the Inquisitor confront Ahsoka, and not to count my eggs, chicken for they hatch, but basically Ahsoka confronts him with no lightsaber, and he has his double-sided and just stomps him. I mean, just literally like
immediately
just dodges a couple different times and like uses the lightsaber and turns it on him and just cuts his head off. Basically, it was amazing. It was awesome, but clearly this Inquisitor was not very skilled.
Yeah, and I thought they were going for a big reveal with this person,
like that, whoever that was.
Yeah, but no,
it was just I think that's.
And I think that was in the end, it was the point that character didn't matter. It wasn't important. But I really thought it was actually going to be something.
Right.
And so I was waiting to try to figure it out. And then the mask, the mask fell, and I was like, oh, they're going to show. But no.
It's Justin Bieber. Anyway,
Justin Bieber.
No, but it also
it was beats. What happened?
And he's mask like baby. But anyway, we're going way too long. We have more
coming
to go.
soon to a theater near you.
So, I'm losing my train of thought here. But it was also, you can tell he wasn't like super standardized in how he was dressed compared to later on when we see how standardized the dress of Inquisitors were.
It was like they hadn't figured out their garb just yet.
So it just another point that furthers that this was pretty early on. So, anyway, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, and so the one thing I do want to point out here about this episode in particular is there's some controversy here with this episode because there was a book written called Ahsoka by E.K. Johnston, and this came out years ago at this point, but it essentially told this story, but not this story. So a lot of similarities, but definitely not the exact same story. In that story, she's hunted down by an Inquisitor, but by name, the fifth brother, who we have seen in other instances, and this clearly wasn't the fifth brother. And it was when she killed the fifth brother, she took his lightsabers and purified them, and that's how she got the two white lightsabers.
Yeah, interesting.
And this seems to imply that she's essentially going to do the same thing with the ones she just got.
Right.
So basically, it has officially taken a canon novel and retconned it.
Yeah.
So for the first time in Disney's Disney publishing
like contradicting themselves
history, they've officially essentially had to completely retcon this novel.
Yeah.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, not that big of a deal, right? It was a young adult novel that was written years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of upset canon fans right now saying,
love that book, and this was canon.
This was the story, and Dave Filoni approved it, and because he's what he had said it was a story.
Yeah.
But he's now decided, Filoni's decided, well, actually, I want to tell the story,
actually,
and I'm doing it differently, and that's upset some people. And me, I'm like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
It's honestly
it's not that different that
as they've always said, what you see on the screen,
that's what I was about to say,
ends up being the more important than anything else.
Yeah, we watched, like, I think we watched something that mentioned, like, there's a hierarchy of canonicity,
Right.
And basically the taking the bottom tier is whatever's written, specifically the bottom is probably like comics, and then the higher than that's books, and then higher than that's like animation, higher than that's TV shows, and then higher than that's movies,
Right.
But yeah, since this was actually on screen, it does take precedence over what was written.
So, but this is the first instance where I'm going to be taking a book from my canon Star Wars shelf in chronological order and removing one. The first time since this is all started. So, just kind of interesting.
It just feels so
I think the publishing restarted in 2014, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, so the first time since 2014, I will be removing a book from my Star Wars canon bookshelf. So just be thinking about that.
Naughty.
Interesting place we're in right now.
Yeah. So that concludes our kind of a review of Tales of the Jedi. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you guys did like that show or that little anthology series, please let us know. And just for the fun of it, if in the comments, since you didn't answer, go ahead and tell us if you would have any anthology series, but any other characters like this, what would you like to see? What characters? And if there's any kind of cool little gaps in lore that you're like, I wish they would have answered that. Tell us what you think and like how an anthology would solve that. So
yeah, so here I'm gonna make this pretty simple here. We're missing multiple episodes of Andor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's the thing, guys. You've already watched those episodes. They're kind of old news at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you were dying to hear our impressions on them. I really am.
Yeah.
But we're probably at this point not going to go through and talk about each episode.
Super specifically. Yeah.
But we'll at least talk a little bit about the newest one.
Right.
And if you have anything you want to mention or reference about in the previous ones, go for it.
Right.
But we're not going to go into super big detail at this point. Specifically, more than anything, because Tales of the Jedi also came out this week, and that was kind of a bigger one for you and me,
right?
And we wanted to make sure we talked about that. So
let's just very quickly, in a very high level thing here, and we can get more into it if we want. But so the episodes that we have not done, starting at episode 6, called The Eye. Basically, that episode with cover from a local festival, the Aldani mission reaches a point of no return. So basically, this episode was
the official heist.
This was the official heist one,
yeah.
Where they basically steal all the Imperial credits, and
and
there was a lot of shenanigans that ensued.
Yeah, and I will say though, we had talked about, we had kind of predicted like, okay, there's things are going to go really wrong. Stuff actually went like pretty smooth in all reality.
Yes and no. Almost everyone of the party died, though.
So I thought Andor was going to. I thought he was going to make some big mistakes in it because he was
going to be his issue.
He was so sure of himself about some certain things. I thought he was going to drop the ball on it, but no, he was.
Yeah, and he did it.
Yeah. I will say though, we were right about the one kid. The young guy.
Oh, you knew he was dying.
But
come on.
I have to say, the way he died was even more like surprising than.
Oh yeah.
Because he technically
survived.
He survived.
Yeah.
But then the
basically they're getting away really fast.
They're getting away, and the thing
and the
crushes them, like the crates.
Yeah, come back,
pin him to the wall, and crush him.
And we're like, whoa,
whoa! I was like, that
dang,
was
thing.
yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool, but
I think that was really neat. I love that one. But yeah, so that was kind of the for episode 6. I mean, we can get more in depth, but we're not going to. So season 7 was called The Announcement, and the description is that the fallout from the Aldani heist is swift and seismic, shaking the Imperial Security Bureau, the ISB, on Coruscant into action and prompting more intrigue for Senator Mon Mothma. So again, basically this whole episode was kind of the fallout of that heist, and clearly we see all of a sudden now the ISB has gotten emergency powers, emergency funding, and now they can basically do whatever they want.
Yeah, and who was there?
Can
you tell me who? Did you notice who was at the ISB? I believe it's in that episode. I believe it was in that one. Somebody with a very commanding voice that maybe we've heard in many Clone Wars episodes.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know.
You're joking, right?
I probably know who it is, but
who's the announcer? Who does all the announcing?
I don't know.
At the beginning
I can't remember. Who is the announcer?
I'm speechless right now.
Listen, we're almost 2 hours into the single podcast. Okay, like you said, I'm clocked out.
You know who I'm talking about?
I'm sure
right?
I do. Just tell me.
You don't know who I'm talking. You don't know who I'm talking about. The guy from, the guy that's a part of the Clone Wars with like Anakin and stuff, but he's like the general, and then he.
Oh yeah.
But then I don't know what his name is, but he's the dude that.
He's the mustache.
Yeah, the mustache,
yeah.
and then he's even in A New Hope and stuff. But he's older and he's white. He's got a white mustache at that point. But he's also the voice of the announcer dude doing all the Clone Wars things.
Okay.
But anyways, that was that character.
I didn't even notice that apparently.
What's his name though? I don't know what his name is. But
yeah, I know what you're talking about now though.
But that was him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I didn't even notice that. Okay. Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. But basically, they get these emergency powers, and that's basically the whole episode. Also we see Cassian. He's kind of running around. He has all of his credits from this heist now. He's trying to get his mom to go with him, and his mom, ironically, is inspired by this heist, and which she doesn't know he did, and thinks that he's just like being so. She's idealizing this heist, like, oh, these rebels are so committed to the cause, and little does she know that her son did it, and he's not committed like whatsoever,
Right.
Anyway, but she doesn't want to go with him, and he then goes to some sort of like vacation,
like a
beach
resort,
planet, like a resort planet, and but it's kind of an interesting scene because even on this resort planet, even when he thought he escapes, like how powerful and how strong the Empire is even there. And even he's like literally was just walking around and then all of a sudden got arrested.
Yeah, and the best part about that whole thing is it's one of the droids that
the
like
K2
SO or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they're called right now, but some kind of security droids or something.
Yeah,
but
like K2
anyway.
series or something like that.
But it's funny that that's what he. And for a moment I was like,
oh, we're
gonna
see K2 so?
Is this the one?
Yeah.
But then it talks like normal and you can
chokes
tell
him to death.
Like, yeah. But I think they're purposely trying to make everyone think like, oh, is it? Oh, is it one?
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, I'm just kidding. Nope.
No.
But yeah, and so that was kind of a neat little thing though. And then,
so basically,
I do want to say, all the stuff with Mon Mothma is still my favorite.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Everything
the best
with
part of the
Mon
series,
Mothma is just fantastic. Every scene with her and dealing with her just idiot husband,
her brat daughter,
and then like her trying to like sneak funding and all this stuff through all this politics.
So here's the question:
just fantastic though.
We see her childhood friend, who's all of a sudden she's putting some faith in. Do you think that he's gonna be loyal, or do you think he's gonna turn on her?
That is the question, right?
Yeah.
He appears like he's gonna be loyal, but I don't know. And what's his name? Andor, dude. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I don't.
Skarsgård. The actual actor's name's something.
Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah.
He tells her, like essentially he's telling her, we're not going to be able to hide.
We've crossed the threshold now,
like this isn't going to be hidden much longer. Like we're officially coming out in the open, whether we like it or not, is basically what he's saying. And she's like trying to come to grips with that because she's so used to, we got to do all this secretly. We got to hide all this stuff. And it's getting harder and harder to do so.
Yeah.
And basically they're coming to grips with that realization of like, at some point, this rebellion becomes real.
It's no longer just this little like cloak and dagger thing that they're doing themselves.
Eventually, we're going to be targets.
Yeah.
And that's something they have to kind of come to a realization with. And I think that's so cool to see come to life.
Cool. Yeah.
And it's like, this Skarsgård guy, he's totally going to die. There's no way he's going to survive this.
Well, and what's interesting too is that he's actually tasked his estranged daughter wannabe girl to actually go and kill Cassian, find him and kill him after this.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah. So that moves us to the most recent episode 8, which is, I can't remember the title of that.
It's actually a great question.
Because this thing that I just was looking at, it only shows me up to 7, of course.
Yeah, I don't know, but
it's Narkina 5.
Oh yeah.
Which is the planet he gets sent to.
Right, because they're like sending out people, and he tells them his name and stuff, and they send him, okay, Narkina 5. He's like, what's Narkina 5?
Narkina 5? Yeah.
I'm just a tourist. I have to say, I give such high praise to Diego Luna in this episode.
Yeah,
because the fear, and like anxiety that you see him go through in this episode it feels so real. Like you can see it on him.
And what's so funny is that after all that he's done, and he thinks he's gotten away, he goes to prison for not even what he did, and he
goes over some simple stupid thing,
like
and
being
it's
associated with someone,
and it's like what over 2,000 or how many days was it? I don't know. It was a bunch.
Well, it turned to 6 months, or 2,319 or something like that.
Something like that. A bunch. And so, and so you can see that like he's well, let me back up. They bring him in to this facility, right?
Yeah.
And so the first thing you notice is they tell them all to take their shoes off. And so,
and you're like, what in the world?
Yeah, and you're like, that's kind of weird. Like they got like a crazy weird foot fetish.
Keep showing
or something,
keep showing his dogs flashing up on screen. You're like, man, get those things taken care of, bro. Come on
all
now.
these slabs of pale white meat slapping on the cold metal. But I'm like,
put those grippers away.
Good grief, cover those things up.
Yeah, those are gnarly.
So anyway, they get into this facility, this prison essentially, and you notice that the people the guards there, they're wearing these like big special boot things.
Yeah, they're like, what in the world?
Yeah,
dude's wearing some boots from like the 90s. You know, it's like, what in the world?
Like, what are those, moon boots?
Moon shoes.
And so they, and then you find out why. They have some kind of like electrical current that coming through the floor, and they can essentially just fry someone whenever they want, like immediately.
Like they don't have to have weapons to keep them work.
Exactly,
they'll just electrocute
it's pretty genius, right?
Evil, but genius.
Evil,
yeah.
It's super evil, but genius.
Yeah,
and so that's how they control everyone there, and so a lot of this episode deals with just kind of that scenario he's in and what that's like, and you meet his crew, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know what they're putting together exactly.
No clue.
I don't know if they even ever explain it. But
like, it's probably just one piece to like a huge thing,
right?
And that's the whole point, is that they're just nameless cogs,
and so they're creating the stuff, but they've made it essentially into a game to try to make everybody work harder, because whoever's last, you're dead. You get fried.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the whole deal there. But what the craziest thing though about this is when he walks in there, this just like, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Andy Serkis.
Yeah, I know.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Snoke himself. So you thought you knew the origins of Snoke.
Somehow Snoke came back.
You didn't know the origins of Snoke. This is the origins
Basically,
of Snoke.
He gets fried, and then like it turns him malformed like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
then they had to put him in test tubes, and and then Palpatine decides he wants to. He's like, I really like this guy's dark, manly voice, so I want to recreate his.
All right.
I want to call.
I'm trying to think of something he says. I can't even think. Like, what does he say? Like,
do not slow down, man. Don't slow down.
I'm so loud right now.
Like, I don't feel like he's that big of a dude, but his voice is just so like.
You know, the dude's like 5'4", but he's like so
his
loud.
His voice, yeah. So anyway, I was like, of all people,
you don't sleepwalk, do you?
Of all people, they brought in the voice of Snoke.
I know.
Well, and just Andy Serkis, who is, he's a very well-renowned actor at this point.
Any mocap
he's done a lot of stuff
is him.
And so, like, I don't know what the decision was there. I thought that was interesting. But listen, the Snoke theories will never die from that, because people are gonna be like, oh, it's gotta be Snoke. He's gotta be Snoke. So it's his voice. Anyway. Yeah. So he's there, and they're doing this thing, and he's kind of leading them all around because he only has 200 and something days left, so he's really working on everybody to do it right. And
I got 242 days left.
And then you find out they're like, we all just got our days extended because of
this new act that
came through because of the rebel attack or rebel heist or whatever you want to call it.
And we're paying for their sins, basically. Yeah. You know?
And basically they're all like, or some of them are like, we're not truly ever getting out.
You're going to be here until they have no use for you or you die.
Yeah.
You know?
So basically they're saying, they always find a reason to extend it, or they find people don't leave here. You get fried. Yeah. Or you just continue to be here.
Yeah.
And so I guess the big question here is how in the world does he get out of this?
Yeah.
I think either someone is going to have to come in and get him out.
Well, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think either someone's going to have to come in and get him out, or something bad's going to have to go down there. Maybe Saw Gerrera's people decide to go and like, because that's the other thing, we do get Saw Gerrera in this episode finally. Yeah. And which basically we only get him for him to say he doesn't want any part of the one dude in his stuff. But
so I was gonna say though, like one thing that we keep seeing is like the
Luthen. His name's
Luthen,
Luthen.
yes,
Good grief,
Luthier.
I could not remember that.
Luthen keeps saying how he needs to find Cassian, and I can't remember exactly what scene it was near the end, but something insinuated that he kind of like he needed him or needed to find him, and so I thought like, oh well, maybe Luthen kind of helps orchestrate his escape from that.
I think what's interesting, what was really cool about the scene with Luthen and Saw Gerrera, is here we have two very different people, yet both
different
are
tactics,
using different tactics and stuff. They're both key figures in this birth of this rebellion,
right.
But neither of them are what I would call a good man. Right, they're both like not very good people that are fighting for a cause they believe in. That essentially does good, but it's
ultimately
like it's a lot of like gray area here, right? And it does show that like this rebellion, and I think I said this before already, but I just keep coming back to it. This rebellion that has these super good heroes that we see, Luke Skywalker and Leia, and all these heroes. You know, all of it was birthed because of some gray,
almost dark
terrorists, essentially, right?
Because even Luthen himself says like this is part of rebellion. That basically you have to just kill people and you have to betray people.
We didn't get to. We never got the Luke Skywalkers. If we didn't get the Luthens, it's just interesting. It's just very interesting.
Yeah, it is they're very interesting. Yeah, for sure. But that pretty much wraps up the episode.
How did it end? How did that episode end?
I know one of the last scenes. I don't know if it is the last scene, but someone either falls or something, and they get absolutely fried and die in the hallway. And I want to say that's like almost the last scene, if not the last.
Oh yeah, because one of them basically just commits suicide. That's what it appears. That's what happens. It looks like they're basically they're done. So they go and land on the floor and it kills them. And then they're like, oh, we gotta smell it all night. But I think my guess is Luthen and his crew or whatever are gonna find, or actually maybe not Luthen, but maybe the Dedra woman, blonde, the blonde woman with ISB. Somebody's gonna find out. Oh wait, and Andor's in this place. And then they're gonna go get them. And do what they want to do with them.
And then upon transport somewhere else, something's gonna happen. Whatever,
I think that's gonna be the case because currently, dude, that dude's stuck. Like
there's no way out.
There's
no way out.
And that's what he's dealing with right now in his head. Is he's like, I'm done for. Like I'm never
after all of this.
All of this. Like,
I get caught on some like fake charge, and I'm gonna be here for 6 years. You know.
And it's like I'm done. But I think that is gonna be the case. Someone's gonna be like, because we know both parties are looking for him. So one of them's gonna find out, and they're either going to either rebels are gonna come in and make some kind of escape plan for him. Or the Imperials are going to be like, oh, wait, we already got this guy. Pull him out because we need to talk. We need to blah, blah, blah. But anyways, so I know we've spent so much time, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. Let us know.
This is the new record of longest episode ever.
Hey, I mean, honestly, not surprised. I kind of expected it. But but my last question to you is, so what are your thoughts so far with Andor? Now that we're 8 episodes in, which is longer than most.
This is usually when it ends, if not already ended, for a lot of
with what we've gotten so far in Star Wars TV. So where are you at with it?
Yeah, so they're definitely upping the stakes, and it has become more entertaining for me. I have to admit, it is still not really my cup of tea. I think I'm not saying it's a bad show. I just don't think it's my thing.
Sure.
So I think that's kind of where it sits. I mean, I think it's ramping up and it's getting more entertaining in terms of just a show to watch. But in terms of a Star Wars media, or a piece of Star Wars media, it's not really. It just doesn't really caught me, and it made me want to come back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, I hate to be negative, and that's not what I'm getting at. I just don't think it's my thing, and I think that's okay, because anybody else can. You may really like it, and that's great, because I'm sure there's some pieces of Star Wars media that I like that you may not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Star Wars Visions.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you know, and I wouldn't strictly. You know, I think that's kind of the same thing. Even though I enjoyed it, I think with Star Wars Vision, I wouldn't even strictly say like, oh, this is Star Wars. You know, I think there's a lot of cool Star Wars elements, but it was kind of like something flavored as Star Wars. Anyway, I know have, you know, a lot of discrepancies there, different thoughts from different people, but you know, whatever. Yeah, but clearly, I think you're starting to like it even more. Is that what I'm getting from this?
Yeah, I mean, I like the show. You know, what I say when I sit down and I'm watching it, I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. This is
pod
I love
racing.
Star Wars. I don't necessarily get that vibe, but
Yeah.
it does. I do think that it's, you know, again, as I've already said, it's slower. It's a slow burn. It's very political espionage. You know, it's all these things, and it's a character piece, right?
Yeah.
It's very much a character piece, and I am definitely appreciating it for what it is. I'm enjoying those aspects of it. Again, like I said, I've loved the Mon Mothma scenes. I mean, that's really cool, and I've loved seeing this birth of the rebellion.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you know, but Star Wars is first and foremost to me always, you know, more than anything about the mystical side and the Jedi
and the good in the universe.
Yeah, and the good,
you know,
and all those things are not present here, right?
None of the things that classically define Star Wars are present in this show.
Right. And so because of that, you know, yes, I would say this is not as important to me as a lot of other things that we do watch and partake in Star Wars. But I am enjoying it for what it is, and I'm still very much interested in where it goes from here. And I'm going to see it through, of course. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So I think because of those reasons, right? Because it's not classically Star Wars, I think it really just boils down to, do you like a spy, slow burn espionage show? I think that's the question, and you do. And for me, I guess I just don't really like that kind of feel, that kind of storyline. But again, I continue to watch it, A, because it is Star Wars, and because, you know, there is going to be lore that's dropped that we're going to want to have and stuff. But B, there is a lot of good scenes, and so I'm not hating on the show, because there is a lot of good stuff. Again, all the Mon Mothma stuff, I love seeing like these relatively familiar characters that you're like, whoa, you're seeing them in a much different light, and all this stuff.
Well, and I think the difference here between like this and, well, honestly, like some of Kenobi or some of the Book of Boba Fett, is that you're looking at it and saying, yeah, I can understand it, but it's not really for me. But you're not going, this is bad.
This is a bad show.
Where, you know, in some instances we have been like, oh, this is,
Yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying it's a bad show. I'm just saying it's not for me.
Yeah, and I think with this show, it's like no matter if you like it or not, you can't deny the quality that they're presenting.
Yeah.
Like, it's, in my opinion at least, I think that the quality of the acting, the writing, everything is done so well. It may not be the most exciting sometimes. It may feel kind of like, oh, well, this is kind of boring. I've heard some people use that with it. This is boring.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you can flat out say, oh, this wasn't made well.
No, I mean, here's the thing. The production level of the show is really good. Right. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I mean, again, and I hate to keep saying this because I know that, you know, some people probably don't like it, but I'm just saying, like, for me, it feels like there's this thing that's flavored with Star Wars. You know, it's not necessarily a Star Wars thing. It's a thing flavored with Star Wars. And so when you look at it in that light, and you just kind of, again, observe it for like the production quality or you know, this genre bending thing, you know, it is a good show in terms of that. Like, you cannot, like I said, deny that they have a lot of high budget in this, that they're going to real life locations using practical effects, and there's a lot of really good acting and all that good stuff. Yeah. So I think it just boils down to, can you accept the fact that it's not traditionally Star Wars in certain definitions, and B, do you like that certain genre of story line? And so but again, I guess that just harkens back to, it's not a bad show, is just that, do you particularly enjoy it or not? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, this show sucks. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, so we're 8 episodes in. There's still 4 left.
4 more. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think I think the last episode is the week of Thanksgiving, actually. So
yeah, I think so. I think it's the 23rd. So whatever. I think 24th is Thanksgiving.
Then we'll essentially get a break of Star Wars in December, and then in January we'll have the Bad Batch, right?
Is that
right? Was that confirmed, or is that still a rumor? I don't remember anymore. I was thinking it's early January is confirmed now, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, this article says Bad Batch Season 2 moves to January release. So
okay, well, there you go.
I don't know.
January. Yeah, we'll have a little bit of a break there. And honestly, might be a good thing.
Yeah, we're a little saturated with Star Wars stuff right now. Saturated. You know? And here's the thing. I think that's the problem. It's not just Star Wars stuff either. I think there's so many shows that I'm watching right now. There's so many shows. There's House of Dragons. There's Rings of Power. There's Andor. Tales of the Jedi just came out.
Yeah.
And there's so many other things.
And then, of course, there's always like a bunch of MCU stuff
coming on. Yeah.
Yeah, you got all these high prestigious shows.
So when something doesn't exactly fit exactly what you're wanting to watch, it's hard to just get interested in it because there's so many other options. I think that's a detriment to Andor 2, I think, right now as well. It's not just that, it's
in competition with some big stuff.
Exactly. So, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually going to have you close out, Braxton, because I got to go over here to my keyboard so I can.
Wow, so I have to start
listen, I'm just a participant. You are the host. You are the host today, okay? No co-hosting. You are host. I'm just a participant.
You're just the interviewee today.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, we're going to end because it is 2 hours and 15 minutes on the dot.
We love you all.
We love you guys so much. We want to thank you so much for your continued support towards the podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening and participating and just being a part of Jedi Eternal. You know, it is so awesome to have this community. And we want to see it grow. We want to hear from you guys because we know this community is a lot bigger than it appears on the surface, right? Because you guys are listening and you're doing all this stuff, but you're not talking to us. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. Just say hi, reach out to us. We would love it. But we thank you so much for listening. We do ask that you would like and follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and YouTube, all those good places, especially on Facebook where we're going to have weekly news, polls, memes, discussions, all that good stuff. But also, we would be so very happy if you would follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and if you would leave us a review, good, bad, or indifferent. Of course, we we like the good ones, of course, but you know, if there's a place that we can improve upon, we absolutely do want to do that. But without further ado, we thank you so much for listening, and we would ask that you would join us next week for episode 88, and we're inching ever closer to episode 100. And last but not least, may the Force be with you. And we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.
We would be honored if you would join us.